Fire, 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 fire.
They're getting what they deserve. Oh no! Are the game devs at the AAA studio getting what they deserve? Let's see.
Indie games aren't just stealing players from AAA games, they're stealing players exponentially, to the point now that investors are talking about it, and it's heralding the collapse of the default authority that much of this industry has enjoyed for far too long.
Yeah.
See, now I know some people are going to say, well...
Plus, because those companies used to have, like, a massive name leverage. Like, you think of, like, Blizzard. It's like, oh, shit, that's an amazing game studio. Oh, yeah. They used to make games like Warcraft 3 and Diablo and World of Warcraft. And you'd have friggin' 343, and they'd be like, oh, shit, they made the Halo. Oh, they made the most amazing games. Now those rose-tinted goggles, I think they're, like, falling off, essentially. Keyword used to. I know, but I think, like, in the mainstream, like, normie consumption, I think people are starting to, like, realize what's going on. Like, they aren't what they used to be.
I've always talked about indie games. There's always been popular indie games. True, but they've never been the primary point of discussion. That is something that has almost always been fully dedicated to the biggest games in the industry. But in recent years, that has shifted almost entirely. And now we have analysts that are saying that this is...
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean 343. It was Bungie. You're right. Sorry. I misspoke.
...isn't some trend. No. Indie games are the future of the games
Halo
industry.
4, which is
Now, there are a lot of moving parts to this story. I'm going to try to cover all of it. It's ranging anywhere from creativity to choice to price on some of these games. But what we are seeing right now is a complete takeover that is being executed by the most passionate, by the most creative, by the most in touch with their audience, and the most affordable.
And they actually want to play the game. I'm convinced that most of these devs don't actually play their game. At least the ones that, like, make shitty games and they've been, like, basically resurrecting a corpse that's just been dead for, like, 10 years.
What's the saying? Time is like a flat circle? Well, today, we're going
like
back to the
Rockstar
beginning.
And shit. I don't know.
But before that, a shout out to Starforge Systems, who did sponsor today's video. If you guys are looking for a new PC, check out the link down below. Best PCs on the market. I can say that because mine still works. Back to the video. I find the timing of this to be almost poetic. 2026 starts off with Riot Games laying off staff because 2XKO just didn't have enough momentum to justify the team size.
I didn't even know it was out until I saw the video game donkey video of him playing the game. It's actually kind of crazy.
Behind it. Well,
what the fuck is that? It's a fighting game based on League of Legends. That's it.
The game that they abandoned because they just couldn't get it out the door comes back from the dead, gets bought back by its original creators, and then blows past 2 million in sales only weeks after its reacquisition.
And again, you can't even say it's like, oh, it's an advertising issue. Oh, it's a budgeting issue on, like, awareness of the game being released. Hytale didn't have an advertising thing. It was a completely word of mouth thing.
Then we have Highguard, the investor-backed independent AAA live service game that's player count dies in a matter of hours, and here we are yet again.
There's no way it actually got worse, right? I kind of want to check. High fart? It dipped to 1,400, chat. This is an all-new low for them. Oh my god, it dipped to 700 at one point. Bro, we're actually gonna see this game just full-blown die, dude.
Talking about layoffs. Meanwhile, Mewgenics shows up, sells 500,000 copies in under 48 hours, cracks 80,000 concurrent players on Steam within days. And while, yes, this is coming from the developer who made Binding of Isaac, the marketing for this game was basically a YouTube video from its creator on a scuffed webcam 5 months before release. This is the story that we've been watching get louder and louder every single year. Big budget AAA games land with teams of hundreds or thousands, marketing so thick you can't escape it, and then nothing. No traction, no pull. They hit the market like a...
Highguard had way more marketing, and it still flopped. What does that say? They had the most, like, they had the best shot at the Game Awards. And granted, like, yeah, people are like, oh, we're not really impressed, but you still got so many eyeballs on it that people were like, oh, I'm gonna go check it out. And then we look at the numbers and it just completely flatlines because it's not actually a good game. Sorry.
Brick and sink. Meanwhile, indie games made by 1 or 2 people show up with zero marketing and just shred the charts apart, snatching the players by the millions. For a long time, it was easy to treat this like it's some fun underdog story. People love to see the little guy win, but there's always been this quiet dismissal that I've seen underneath it. Like, these wins don't matter. Like, the industry is just too big to have any consequences. Like, the silent majority is out there, and they're still just propping up the AAA games industry. And if you think that, you're wrong. Because indie isn't just outperforming AAA every once in a while. No, these players are getting pulled away repeatedly, and they're not coming back, and now we have proof. Not long ago, Bain & Company, a group of analysts and managers working under the Bain investment umbrella, mostly focused on tech and things like that, published a report titled Squeezed in the Middle AAA...
What's the context of the game? It's just breeding cats. I'm not even kidding. Without spoiling anything, it's just about breeding cats. And it's a turn-based little roguelite.
Game studios must adapt, where they wrote AAA video game studios are caught in a pincer movement. On one side, nimble indies are delivering hit games on shoestring budgets, and on the other, huge games as a service platforms such as Roblox and Fortnite are pulling players, creators, and brands into their gravitational orbit. In between, AAA studios are getting squeezed. Executives from these incumbent studios can no longer ignore the hard truth. They will have
I think Fortnite, in my honest opinion, with how old it is now compared to all the other games, I think it came in like 2016 or 2018. I think once it hits around about the 10-year mark, they gotta do something because they're probably not as popular as they used to be. Fortnite's always garbo? No, it's not true. I don't think Fortnite was garbage. I think it had a niche. There's a reason it was popular. People... Even though I'm not like a Fortnite fan or anything, I can appreciate it for what it is because it still holds a massive fucking audience. Like, it's like a World of Warcraft, but for the generation that came after. Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You might not like it for what it is, but like, it's still a really popular game.
Reinvent how they operate if they want to stay relevant and secure their future. Indie developers are thriving despite lacking large workforces and financial resources that would come with being owned by a major publisher. As an illustration, their PC revenues grew at 22% compound annual rate from 2018 through 2024 versus 8% for AA, mid-market studios, and AAA, large studios with big teams and budgets focused on making ambitious titles. Even indie's share of total games available on Steam has remained relatively constant, according to our analysis of estimated upfront game sales from Video Games Inside. Okay, so now to translate that into normal human language, indie isn't just growing faster than AAA, it's growing at nearly 3 times the rate over the same stretch. And because
people are realizing that it's not worth it spending fucking $80, $60, sometimes even more, depending on if it has like a luxury pack, to get like maybe 3 hours of entertainment when they could wait for an indie game to get released. All of your friends are talking about it. Part of the reason people game is because of friends. Even if you don't have any, you still hear word of mouth through other people, maybe other streamers. You might engage in it that way. It's still very social. But you would rather spend like $10 and have a lot of fun playing Mewgenics, for example, than if, for example, GTA came out the next day and you spent $80 and it turns out to be like basically just not very good and it's unfinished and it's unpolished and yeah, some people are saying it's gonna be $100. I mean, I don't know, we'll see, but my point still stands. It's like, why would they take the risk given the track record of all of these AAA publishers? COD is in the dumpster. Halo's fucking in the dumpster too. All of these massive franchises are not doing too hot.
growth compounds, that gap isn't just sitting there, it's snowballing. It's becoming the new default for the industry. And the market share here is a savage telling, because Bane could sit here and say AAA grew 8%. Sure, but AAA also started with the throne. If AAA's market share, which in this case means player base or individual sales, drops from 76% to 61%, that's bad. That's really bad. That's a 15% loss. That's like these guys losing anywhere from 90 to 100 million individual sales. That's essentially the floor giving out from underneath them. And in this case, they're only talking through 2024. 2025 was even worse for these guys. That was a year where most of the biggest budget releases came in under expectations outside of Battlefield 6, and multiple indie games were tearing holes through the games industry, dragging players away. And you know what makes this entire thing that much more insulting? It includes Black Myth Wukong and Baldur's Gate 3 into AAA sales, and I don't care.
I would not have put them into AAA. I would say they're mid studios. So they're compensating that? Bro, it's even worse than we thought. That's crazy. It's not separating them, it's lumping them together. I'm willing to bet if I had some sort of looking glass and I could see the data myself, it's probably the AA is probably so much higher than the AAA. Like, at least, like, trouncing it by at least, like, 20%.
Drops from 76% to 61%. That's
crazy, dude.
Into AAA sales. And I don't care what box and analyst wants to try to put them in. Those are not AAA games.
It's probably more than that. It's probably a majority of it.
In my eyes, nor do I think a lot of players would view those games as AAA either. They are outliers. And if you strip those outliers away, that means these guys are suffering massive losses. And the funny thing is, even drafting 2 games into...
They're putting Silk Song there with fucking Call of Duty. Some people argue because the more money a studio makes, this is the saddest part, even though Silk Song is a fucking indie, because it's made so much money. It's undeniable, obviously. If you're gonna sell that many copies, their argument is that because it makes so much money, that automatically disqualifies them from being indie, and it makes it into a double A. Even though it's made by like a small studio.
Their corner that honestly do not belong there. These guys are still getting beaten by indie games. That is just insane to me. So what's causing this loss of players? Why are indie games taking over the industry? Well, even the analysts are starting to see things from our perspective, though I do think their data is flawed. Bane writes, what's fueling this disruption is not a cycle, it is a structural shift that's reshaping the economics of the industry.
Is Expedition 33 also indie? No, because people disqualified them from the Indie Game Awards or something because they already made a game before that. I wish I was kidding. There was an award show that disqualified them, or they stepped down because they were being humble and saying like, oh, this isn't our first game, so therefore we're gonna step down and let someone else win. No, they never did. No, they did. I'm telling you, look it up. Expedition 33 disqualified from Indie Awards. Where is it? Is it rescinded over what? I'm trying to find it. Oh, it was disqualified because of AI gen usage, not because it was their first game? Alana, you're wrong. I guess I am. It was Megabonk. Oh, that's what it was. I was thinking of Megabonk. Yeah, you're right. Never mind then. Yeah, okay. I think I confused Megabonk with Expedition 33 because Megabonk's creator said that this isn't his first game, so he said that he wasn't going to take that. Yeah. He left willingly? Yeah. I'm sorry. I did confuse it. My bad.
Several trends are
They're
behind
both
it.
indie games, though.
Player preferences are evolving. While gamers continue to value high-fidelity graphics, gameplay is the most important reason players choose and stay engaged with games. And
Got pushed out for an AI placeholder that was patched out. These people are... I know this isn't relevant to what we're talking about, but I just wanted to clarify. Do you realize that all these AAA studios use so much generative AI and that they hide it from the consumer and nobody fucking gives a fuck? Call of Duty openly admits to using AI to make the banners and the art for their stuff that they also make people pay money for their icons and shit, but nobody bats an eye. Yeah, it's all performative bullshit. Expedition 33 used one placeholder AI thing. Oh god, we gotta disqualify it. It's a piece of shit. I fucking knew it. Oh no. But if Call of Duty, you know, if it's just a Call of Duty, so it's fine. Yeah, all those icons and stuff. Oh, we don't really care.
Bain's 2025 survey, 22% of gamers cited gameplay as the #1 reason they play their favorite games, while high-quality graphics or audio was cited by only 7% of gamers as the most important factor. That dynamic has helped level the playing field, as game studios of any size can achieve commercial success if they get the gameplay right. See Undertale, Stardew Valley, and Vampire Survivors, for example.
And my gameplay?
Indie quality is up. Top indie games rival or surpass AAA titles in critical acclaim. Last year, 75% of the top 20 highest rated games on Metacritic were developed by indie studios, nearly double their share in 2016. As of this writing, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, Blueprints, and Split Fiction top Metacritic's 2025 ratings, outshining even the most ambitious AAA releases. They go on to talk about disruptive tech, barriers collapsing, budgets not making sense, marketing not working, and yeah, all that.
I would say personally, as a gamer, when I started like having the wool pulled away from my eyes, I want to say it was probably like 2016. That's when I realized games were taking a turn for the worst. I've said this many times. I do hope that this is like a more of a renaissance of video games. I just can't stand that these AAA game studios think that they can always be at the top, and that anybody who's trying to like interfere with their monopoly, so to speak, or their triopoly or whatever, is like, oh no, they just want to encroach on our market. No, they're not actually that good. It's the incel gamer chuds. They don't want to buy our COD game. Yeah, the graphics. Look, these graphics aren't very good.
That stuff matters. Indie quality is obviously up. I think anybody can see that, but they're still missing the point here, because they're treating those high ratings like it's a fact to report instead of a question that needs to be answered. Why were they rated that highly? What did they do that AAA isn't doing? And also, I'm sorry, I want to know who they are surveying, because there is no shot that only 22% of gamers said that gameplay is the reason that they stick to a game. Like, okay, sure, you're going to have a couple people that are here for the story, the art, music, vibes. I'm here for my waifu, whatever. But is it fun is the actual foundation of these games. It is the entire tree. Everything else just hangs off of that. Without it, the game dies. And AAA has basically been speedrunning proof of that over the past couple of years. For all the insights in this report, the biggest miss they have is how self-inflicted this collapse is, especially around gameplay. These games just aren't fun, and their priorities are completely out of order. Bain is right that if players care more about gameplay, indies are going to have an easier time competing.
I love the argument also that's been cropping up in the last, like, I want to say 5 years. Oh, you never gave the game a good shot. You only played it for an hour, bro. That's why you didn't get into it. It's like, if it takes me more than an hour to an hour and a half to get into the game, then the game's probably not that good. It's not worth my time. I'm sorry. It's the same thing. I give a rule of thumb. I know it's not a one-to-one, because like anime and like video gaming, it's like different. Obviously, there's different time commitments. But for me, if I don't get 6 episodes into the anime, then it's not good. I'm sorry. If it's past 6, whatever your number personally is, whatever it is, some people are say 7, some say 5, whatever. For me, it's like the 6 episode rule. If I don't get hooked on something, on the premise or like the animation or whatever the fuck else, I'm not gonna get into it. It doesn't matter that like, oh, it's in the 7th episode. That's when it happens. It's like, no, I'm sorry, no, I'm done. I'm not wasting my time. And if it takes me more than 2 hours to get into a game, which is a pretty good cutoff in my opinion, I'm not gonna enjoy it because it's gonna feel forced.
Because that's all they have. But that's also the part that AAA gave up. In indie games, gameplay is the starting line. In AAA, it feels increasingly more optional. AAA games stopped obsessing over the gameplay and started
They obsessed over fucking microtransactions.
Obsessing over the way they look, over how they're positioned, over the agenda that they're trying to pretend to represent, how they could attract more investors, what trend they're trying to ride. And when you build a game like that, you don't end up building something that people love. You just end up building something that people tolerate until they don't. Back last year during the 30th anniversary of Space Invaders, the game's creator, Tomohiro Nishikado, said that he thinks games are being made the wrong way, and he pointed
Let me guess. All the AAA studios disagree with him. The guy that made one of the most successful games ever. One of the oldest games ever. Like Space Invaders. That shit's still talked about to this day. It inspired so many other genres. It was basically like the grandfather of like little fucking arcade shooters.
out
yeah,
this
it's still
very
played
issue.
to this day.
He said the game development process in Taito eventually changed, and we, the game creators, were increasingly expected to listen to the sales team.
And that's the fucking problem. You're first listening to the sales team instead of being like, hey, we just want to make a good game. No, the sales team is already pitching. We got to put in a battle pass. We got to think about microtransactions. How are we going to keep players engaged in the shop? Stop! We just want to play!
Which came up with new title concepts they thought would sell. Then we started game development based on that. Personally, I don't think it's the correct approach. Creators should make a game on their own first, and then they should expand the project larger. That's what I felt throughout my whole career. AAA games feel a lot like skinwalkers. They just kind of sketch you out. You can tell they're not necessarily the same as everybody else. Underneath, it's just an amalgamation of a bunch of different incentives, a bunch of different people pulling strings in all kinds of different directions for their own wants and needs, none of it having anything to do with you as a player. It's all about whether they think it will sell. Does it look like the game that it needs to?
Can I put a battle pass in it? Can I put in a currency so that I can sell it to my customers? Yeah, make it grindy as hell. Make it so that they have to log in to do dailies. There we go. Put a battle pass in it and make it gay! Yeah, can I put in multiple currencies to purposefully confuse the customers so they end up spending more money than they mean to?
Look like? Is it going to offend anybody? Is it sending the right message? Can we
there
monetize
you go,
it?
chat. You're thinking about it.
Can we put a battle path in it?
Took the words right out of my fucking mouth.
That's what I think happened to
Motherfucker.
Diablo 4. It's one of the reasons that game probably took so long to come out is because these guys had a hard time figuring out how they were going to monetize it as a live service. And you see that pretty much across the board with a lot of these games. And I think that this can only go on for so long before the games themselves start to lose meaning. And then the studios start to lose players. Somewhere along the way, when games got mainstream, they started becoming more profitable, the video game part of the equation just disappeared.
Yep.
And once these guys started exploiting these games for profit, let's be honest, it's exactly what these companies are doing. As much as these guys want to come out and be like, guys, I'm trying to make the most creative thing ever. You have to understand, stop bullying me online. There are executives that are above you that are trying to milk this industry as hard as they possibly can.
Yep.
And they don't care if it collapses because they'll just go get a job in another industry. That's what.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, I don't know when. Maybe WoW will never truly die, but when WoW gets to that point where like it's just a carcass, and basically nobody's left to play it except for like select people because it's just not fun anymore. I do think that all those CEOs will just pack up and move on to the next fucking thing that Microsoft will shove into their face, and they'll go and milk the next thing. That's really it. It's not that deep.
CEOs do.
Isn't it already a carcass? It is, but they're still keeping it alive, and it's making them a decent amount of money. That's the thing. I meant like a carcass when it's no longer even useful for them to eat, or sorry, to consume.
Watch the path of some of these guys. They are destructive.
And I actually think if Classic WoW back in 2020 never released, I think it would have been it would have not given them the cash injection to keep going. I think it would have gotten actually a lot worse if WoW Classic wasn't such a massive success at the time.
Forces.
Funnily enough, they struck.
It's no surprise now that we're starting to see the pendulum swing in the opposite direction. Back to video games just being video games. I don't know exactly when it happened for me, but when I look at the numbers that they were showing, this is almost the exact same timeline or experience that I felt where I started playing less and less AAA games and more indie games. And while there are still AAA games that I get excited for, it's a fleeting matter. Once the honeymoon phase ends, I almost immediately start seeing the ugly head of the AAA hallmarks that I've gotten all too used to, and I just walk away and go back to an indie game. Now, all of this explains why people aren't playing AAA games anymore. And these analysts are starting to figure it out, which means investors are also going to figure it out. That part I don't necessarily like, but they have all the data, they have the analytics. But the one thing that these guys don't seem to understand is why people play indie games. It should probably come as no surprise, but I've somehow already...
Why do they play the game? There's no battle pass? There's no cosmetics that you can buy at the shop to make your characters look cool? Why do they play it? I don't get it.
Sunk over 30 hours into Mewgenics, and I don't exactly know when that happened. I just kind of blinked and a couple days disappeared. I haven't really been sleeping all that well recently, but I will say one of the things that I realized is how few of these indie devs give a fuck. This is a game about eugenics. It's about trying to breed the perfect cat-killing machine using D&D party and class structure inside of a tactical turn-based roguelike where you can end up breeding cats that have autism and ADHD. The voice cast includes literal real-life ideological enemies like Ethan Klein and iDubbbz. The devs actually put Chris Chan in this game. And
I still can't get over that. That's so funny.
Of course, the second the game dropped, it got the usual problematic treatment. PC Gamer ran the whole entire controversy pre-game. Rock, Paper, Shotgun grilled Edmund McMillan over the casting, and his answer is perfect. He just said...
The inclusion of people with what? With clashing ideologies felt appropriate. Yes, because it's a silly fucking game. At the end of the day, I hope he told them, like, hey, Ethan Klein's in the game, and iDubbbz is like, okay, whatever, I don't really care. I don't even think they paid them, actually. All the celebrity meows that they did, they didn't pay them money. Yeah, they just did it for the love of the game. They're like, okay, whatever, I don't give a fuck.
He just said if he had only picked who he agreed with, he'd be the only one meowing in the game. And
so true. So true. That's why I wish I could, like, collab with more people. Like, because, like, some people, yeah, obviously they disagree with me, but their audiences don't agree with me, and I don't want to ruin their... I don't want to give them a hard time. There are people that I talk to privately that people would be like, oh, well, they probably don't agree with your opinions, Alana. It's like, that's fine. It's called being a reasonable person, even if you don't agree with someone. It's called being a normal human being. Yeah, like, honestly, at the end of the day, it's like, I could collab with pretty much a lot of people that you think I wouldn't be able to, but it's more so out of respect of their audiences, because you can't predict audiences. There's a lot of people who are very, very dumb who would attack you and freak out because I collab with them, or vice versa.
I can't lie. That is absurdly refreshing. I think that that's a huge reason why a lot of these indie games are taking over. It's not better tools. It's not marketing trends. It's not whatever analyst language that they want to use. It's that these games are being made from the roots again. Somebody with vision, someone making something that they think is cool without spending half of their dev cycle terrified of online drama, politics, trends, optics, or whether or not some consultant is going to try to flag a line of their dialogue. It's two questions. Is this cool and is this fun? And that mindset keeps winning. I think that Nishikado quote from earlier nails this perfectly. Developers should make their own games first. Indie games still have that.
Bestie with Hassan? No, Chad, you don't understand. Hassan would love to collab with Asmongold. Do you know how awesome their stream would be? They would be yelling at each other. It would be entertaining. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, think it would be a very funny stream. However, what would happen is, like, most of Asmon's audience would find it funny, right? Sure, there would be a lot of schizos harassing him and saying, like, oh my god, how dare you give Hassan a platform. The problem is that Hassan's entire audience, because they're so fucking captured in his politics that they wouldn't even be able to handle, like, Asmon disagreeing with him and making it entertaining. They would freak the fuck out and say, like, oh, no, we can't have our king fucking collabing with Asmongold, even though they're having, like, a fucking good time and they're arguing and creating content for us. Like, they wouldn't understand the nuance of, like, you can have a conversation with someone that you disagree with. Just like you can have a video game with people who have different ideologies. You can have a game like that because it doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, it's entertainment.
Quality behind them where you can feel a person behind it.
I think Hassan wants to debate, but Asmon doesn't do collabs and refuse. No, he doesn't do debates. He does do collabs in that sense. It's just that debating is boring. Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you want to have a real debate, you have to prepare, and it's kind of almost sterile. Does that make sense? Yeah, like, debating in and of itself, you need to prepare yourself for it, and it's different. And I personally don't really like watching debates in that respect.
Taste, somebody's weirdness, somebody's obsession, not a product that's built to satisfy 10 different incentives at once. Games like Mewgenics feel selfishly made, and that's not a flaw. That's where some of the best games come from. The Legend of Zelda exists because Miyamoto wanted to bottle his own childhood, exploring caves in the countryside of Japan, and turn that feeling into a video game. Concerned Ape made Stardew Valley because he felt that Harvest Moon kept getting worse. Notch made Minecraft.
That's what I fucking love, man. So many games came out, like, they were spawned out of the dislike of another game that was like the predecessor or the grandfather. The people that made League of Legends, they liked Dota All-Stars, which was what Warcraft 3 was, like, later evolved into, and it became its own thing. They liked Dota All-Stars, but they didn't like how certain things were made, so they made the game that they wanted, which became League of Legends. Yeah, we can shit on League all we want, but it's successful because it was a little bit more of a dumbed down version of Dota.
Is a personal project because he just loved the loop of building stuff with blocks. Miyazaki, his whole approach to FromSoft storytelling, the gaps, the fragments, that comes from him being a kid who couldn't read Western novels, Western fantasy novels that he was obsessed with, so he just started filling in the blanks with his own imagination.
Aww.
Yoko Taro, Nier Automata. That's basically him just giving his own personal retelling of Evangelion through his own weird lens. You keep going down the list and you're going to realize something very fast. Most of the games that people actually love didn't start off as a market demand. They started off as somebody wanting to make something that they thought was cool, something that they thought was fun.
Yep.
You know, for a really long time, I assumed that a lot of these big indie hits were just about listening to the players. Like, these guys are DJs out there taking requests, just perfectly responding to market feedback. But the more that I watch it, the more I come to realize that these guys are the ones that are making the call and then answering it themselves. They're not some alien species. They are you. They are me. They're sitting around asking, what happened to that game? Where did that game go? Why doesn't anybody make a game like this? And instead of waiting, these guys are just doing it themselves. And when I start to look at it through that lens, why these games are being made, the way these games are being designed.
I would honestly argue movies also went the same way, because essentially what happened with, like, Marvel as a franchise, it used to be just about comics, and these people wanted to retell comics with visuals, right? And then it devolved into movies. It's like, okay, I want a live action reinterpretation of the comic books because they're obviously just blank paper pages that can't move. Let's do that. Or do animations. And now we've reached to that pinnacle point where it's like, we can't create anything original or fun. We just have to regurgitate the same thing over and over and over again. They don't make anything original. They just want to keep milking the franchise.
The success makes a lot more sense. These games make a lot more sense. They're making games for themselves as a video game player. When I play an indie game, I boot it up and I just play it. Even if it's on the first playthrough, there's barely any downtime. No 10-minute movie intro, no long-winded exposition, no tutorial that's keeping me from playing the
tutorial with yellow paint.
Actual game. Meanwhile, with AAA games, they become increasingly more abrasive and convoluted. I remember when I was reviewing Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and it took me almost 15 minutes just to get to actual gameplay.
What? 15 minutes to start shooting? Yo, Ditas, thank you for the raid. Thank you so much.
Shaders installing, updating, restarting, relaunching, agreeing to sharing my data and their community guidelines and whatever else. Then more cutscenes, then menu juggling. And the whole time I'm just sitting there thinking, all I want to do is play a game. I just want to play the game. The longer you keep me from doing that, the more likely I am to leave. A lot of indie games remind me of older games for that reason. Over the holidays, I got gifted one of those digital Super Nintendos. I sat down, I turned it on, and I immediately realized none of that friction ever existed back then. The focus was entirely on you getting into the game fast and having enough game there to keep you. Hell, most of the games didn't even have tutorials. All they did was just drop you into the game and had you figure it out. And figuring it out was actually part of the fun. You were discovering the controls, you were discovering the game itself, bare bones with context or no context at all, and you were just off to the races.
Yeah.
So now here I am playing Mewgenics, and I'm realizing...
And there's also, like, no min-maxing or, like, beta testing and, like, open beta for people to try out. You just got into the game and you played it as you go along. I really do miss that a lot about MMOs specifically. Games you can kind of avoid that shit, but, like, with MMOs... The games have been so min-maxed to death. Like, if you're not getting ahead, you're behind. And that's what I fucking hate.
It's the exact same attraction. You breed cats, cool, but the game is not sitting you down and spoon-feeding you all of the optimal breeding paths. It's not even telling you how to guarantee traits, what stats belong on what role, what the best build is, or any of that. You get basic controls, and that's about it. You don't even know how terrain works, how you can use elements, how chain abilities work, or how you can use items properly. The game just gives you a puzzle, throws it in your lap, and says, figure it out. A lot of modern games...
I remember playing... This is gonna sound so stupid. I was maybe like 6 years old, and it was one of those Barbie games that, like, your parents buy you because you want a video game, but you're too little and they don't want to give you something violent. I wanted to play Doom, but my dad said it was too violent because my brother played it and he's older than me, and they said, no, you can't play that, and they pulled me away from the computer. So they got me a Barbie game. And I loved that game, but there was a part where I kept getting stuck, and you don't have the ability to, like, look up a guide or, like, look up a YouTube tutorial. Now everything is at your fucking fingertips, and I just had to beat my head into the wall until I figured it out.
Games have moved away from that. Everything gets explained in full detail. Nothing gets left unsaid. It's all in the name of accessibility. So they just want to make sure that everyone understands the game because they need everyone to understand the game. So they spell everything out. They flatten the learning curve. They sand down the edges. And once that mindset takes over, it just starts bleeding into the rest of the design. The game
and everybody, like, it's the thing. It's like, if everybody's exceptional and they can beat the game very easily, then nobody is, like, exceptional. It's so cringe. Wait, how old are you? GameFAQs was around, like, in 1998. Buddy. You think people are buying GameFAQs for some fucking obscure-ass game that, like, for a Barbie game? Are you trolling? I didn't have proper dial-up internet until, like... No, I didn't have modem internet until, like, 2012. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, loading up anything was a chore. Like, I just had to figure it the fuck out. Yeah, I had dial-up probably until, like, 2010 or 2011.
So complex, well, now they're going to over-explain. Then they notice that they're over-explaining, so now they simplify. They remove features, they remove texture. They make it easier to swallow. In that process... the game starts to lose its feeling of discovery. It starts to lose its...
And that's another thing. Even if you went to Game FAQ, most of the time you wouldn't get the answer that you wanted because some motherfucker deletes his fucking account and it erases all of the shit too. I remember that happened to me. I got stuck on some sort of quest in like Fallout 3. I went to Game FAQ in like 2011 and I was like, fuck, what do I do? And this motherfucker, like, there's a reply to it saying like, thanks dude, this is awesome, and then boom, the fucking thing's deleted. The top post, the original, is gone.
Feeling of a video game. It starts to lose the sense of exploration and achievement that you only get from earning your understanding, which is the whole reason that we play a lot of these games. Beyond that, the final point that I'm going to make, if you guys really want to know.
How do you get stuck in a quest in Fallout 3? Very easily. It's called a fucking dogshit buggy game that you still like to play. It was buggy!
Why indie is winning, and yes, I know that I harp on this point a lot. The biggest deciding factor here is price. And I don't just mean that indie games are cheaper so people buy them. I mean, price changes the shape of success here. It makes the difference between basically all of these games. It makes these games way easier to try, way easier to recommend, way easier to go viral, and it's how you end up with indie outpacing AAA at nearly 3 times the growth. Like, do the math. If you bought every indie hit in 2025, you'd be looking at around $300. If you bought every AAA release, you'd be north of $1,600. That is a huge gap. That is the difference between, sure, I'll grab it, and I need to be convinced that I'm not going to waste my money. There is simply more room for players to say yes with indie games than there is with AAA, and it's not even close. Indie games are simply just better pretty much across the board. Indie games are being made by people who still have their incentives that are lining up with the players. They respect your time.
And they also respect your wallet, too. Like, Silksong could have costed $30, and it only costed $15.
They feel fun immediately. They make something that people actually want to play, while AAA is sitting around making games for everybody else except the player. These games are just better in every single way, whether it's affordability, whether it's creativity, whether it's even the way they look in some cases. I mean, look at some of these games visually. You can take a screenshot and almost know exactly where some of these games are coming from, but with a lot of these modern AAA games, they all look the same. They're spending millions of dollars chasing the exact same aesthetic because none of these guys understand where success is coming from. It reminds me of this video that I saw where some guy green screened my apartment's background into his video. Flattering, weird.
Weird but flattering, sure.
You're going down the wrong lane. I'm going to tell you that right now. I just want people to appreciate how much this industry is flipped. Like, it's completely transformed at this point.
I hope
nearly everybody
going.
I know outside of people that play Nintendo games are skeptical of every single AAA release, but are over the moon for a $20 indie game that's coming from somebody that's a nobody, that's coming from nowhere. But to be honest with you, that nobody from nowhere is a lot closer to you and I than a C-suite executive that's trying to slap another character with a Killmonger haircut because they believe that it's better for audience demographics.
Yeah.
When did you guys start waiting for AAA releases instead of counting them down?
Oh, man. I stopped being excited for expansions for World of Warcraft, I think in 2018. Yeah, like, I think BFA killed it for me, personally. Yeah, that's what did it in for me. I used to be super excited. I'd take off, like, I don't know, if I had a job, I'd be like, okay guys, I'm not coming in. I'd be like, fuck y'all, if I lose my job, that's fine, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Ouch, what a lie. No, I think Legion was okay. I don't know if I took off, like, work or if I just, no, I was still in school. I just skipped, like, lectures for, like, a couple of days. But anything past Legion, BFA, I did not take days off or anything. That was just like, that was it for me. Yeah. That's probably when I stopped getting excited for games, and then I just started, like, hearing about people's releases, like, good games being released, and playing it, like, a couple of weeks after people recommend them. Even Overwatch, I remember when Overwatch came out, I was skeptical for a day or two, but then all my friends started playing.
You know, back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, people were waiting outside in the blistering cold, in the smoldering heat. They were already sold on these games years before they ever released. Now, everybody waits. I was back there when the
Yes!
ancient
Yes!
texts were first written for the Wrath of the Lich King launch, for Grand Theft Auto 5, for Halo 3, even further back than that. Oh, man. I feel like I'm fading right now. But, you know, part of that is digital
You
downloads.
don't look that
It's the
old,
reason why
sir.
people
You look
didn't
like
show
you
up
may
for
be
them
30.
anymore. But
Sorry.
the other part of nothing stopping
Trace,
people
thank you
from
for the
playing some of these
raid.
games and waiting up
Thank
until
you.
midnight until they launch, but that doesn't really happen. We stopped waiting. We stopped showing up. You know, if this year plays out like last year did, we're going to see a lot more than 3 times the growth. These guys are going to surrender more and more of this industry at an ever increasing rate. And it's ultimately going to end up in more layoffs, more studio closures.
That sounds like a skill issue. Rip Bozo. Sorry. I wouldn't happen if you made a good game. They took 9,000 people to take Diablo 4, and it is not a good game if they have to lay off 4,000 people. It sounds like that sounds like a skill issue. Have a good stream. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Be honest with you, while there's going to be a lot of people, at least in games media, that are going to be mourning that, I'm going to be celebrating the better games.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Woo!
hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'm going to bed. Peace.
Peace. Family. 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 Oh, go check him out. Legendary Traps. He's really cool. Cool guy. He's so right. I hope it's a renaissance. I do. I do. I do. Yeah. Do. Yeah, go check him out. Very nice. V. The triple V. That's right. Triple Virgin Destroyer.
Oh, yeah.